Hey guys, I thought I'd do this lesson video while you watched my dog, so you get to see that. I'm going to talk about the difference between a default yes and a default no. Um, when you're teaching yes and no, you're going to find that your dog has a certain tendency at first. Most dogs have a default yes, which means that when food is available to them, they will immediately go to the food and eat it, right? Very quickly, some dogs develop what's called a default no, which means if you present food in your hand, right, like you're doing the yes and no skill. So you present food in your hand, but you say nothing. The dog assumes they're not allowed to have it, and they don't take it, and they are waiting for the yes. That's what I call a default no. And I'm going to tell you the pros and cons of each, and why I think you should choose in general a default yes. So a default yes is a natural dog, a dog who does what dogs do. They eat food that they find, they're opportunistic scavengers, and they're not super inhibited or constantly seeking approval and somewhat shut down. A default no dog may be easier to control, but they tend to have a clinginess, a need for suggestibility, a lack of independence. These are all things that are bad for sport dogs for sure, but are bad for even the regular pet dog. I want my pet dog to kind of be a dog. So when you're teaching this, make sure you're not accidentally putting your hand out, saying nothing, and waiting for the dog to do, and then punishing them by closing your hand without saying anything. Tell the dog when you want them to leave something alone. And if you throw treats and don't say anything, the dog should go for it. If you're training a service dog, then you might want to default no. But keep in mind, you can train back and forth between the two. I just think for the average pet owner, you don't want a dog that clingy, that needy for approval. It's going to create problems later on that you don't necessarily anticipate, like separation anxiety and things like that. So, yeah. Default yes is our standard in dog jitsu, that if you don't know what to do, you're going to teach default yes. The dog should want food. We've had it before in nose work where the owners told us, oh, they're not allowed to eat food off the ground or something like that. And it's like, well, hey, look, this is nose work. That's what the dogs do. We're trying to facilitate dogs' natural behavior. Plus, they're not really eating food off the ground for free. You gave them a search command. But anyways, that's another point entirely. So keep that in mind when you're training your dog.